I begged my husband 333 times to accompany me to the seaside for beachcombing and camping. Every time, he mercilessly refused me, saying that these things were really boring. After begging him humbly again, he proposed to take me to the best seaside restaurant in the city. I dressed up carefully and waited early at the appointed place, but then I heard them say, "President Xiao has booked the nearby beach to go beachcombing and camping with his girlfriend." Under the night sky, fireworks were splendid. A couple in a passionate kiss appeared in the live video. Xiao Yuanting held Shen Tang and kissed her very gently and intoxicatedly. It turned out that this was what Xiao Yuanting meant by interesting. The news of Xiao Yuanting booking the seaside went viral on the hot search. In the live broadcast, Xiao Yuanting and the female anchor Shen Tang were seen hugging gently and having passionate French kisses from time to time. Netizens commented one after another under Weibo, "So romantic. Being his girlfriend is really so happy. What kind of fairy couple? This damn romantic love of others. President Xiao has even dispatched his private yacht. Could it be that he is going to propose?" Xiao Yuanting even responded on his private Weibo, "Shen, the beautiful woman, went beachcombing and camping. To avoid being disturbed by tourists, he booked the place." Shen Tang quickly replied with a shy expression below, which caused another frenzy among the fans. In a short time, the heat remained high. Looking at one comment after another, my heart ached faintly. Today is my wedding anniversary with Xiao Yuanting. In 3 years of marriage, the number of times we had meals outside together could be counted on one's fingers. Except for a few good brothers, I didn't even know his friends. After countless quarrels, in order to ease the relationship between us, he proposed to take me to the best seaside restaurant in the city today. I didn't refuse. I put on the dress that had been in the closet for a long time, put on an exquisite makeup, and came to the appointed restaurant early. However, 3 hours passed, and he was still nowhere to be seen. The phone couldn't be reached, and there was no reply on WeChat. I didn't want to wait anymore. Just as I was about to leave, I heard the waiters at the door discussing, "Have you heard? Today, President Xiao booked the nearby beach to go beachcombing and camping with his wife. Look at that big yacht. How luxurious. The fireworks will be set off soon." On the electronic screen, a couple in a passionate kiss appeared in the live video. Under the night sky, the fireworks were splendid, and the two were very intoxicated in their kiss. In all these years since I married him, he has never accompanied me to the seaside. He even doesn't like me going to his company to find him. Looking at the couple in the video, who are holding hands like lovers in a passionate relationship, it seems that I am the redundant one. Xiao Yuanting is quite indifferent in matters of intimacy between men and women. Now I know that he has a passionate side, but it's just not for me. I lingered alone by the seaside for a long time. The sea breeze at night was very cool, mixed with a salty and fishy smell, emitting a heartbreaking sadness. Looking at the brightly lit seaside restaurant across the way, it seemed very close, but also very far. I'd better go back. He should not be free today. I comforted myself. Turned and walked towards the intersection where I came. The cell phone rang. It was Xiao Yuanting calling. "There was something tonight. I couldn't accompany you to eat. Maybe next time." I was silent for a long time and didn't know what to say. Every time he thought his lies were flawless. Little did he know that I didn't want to expose him at all. I always smiled and told him it was okay. But naivety and wishful thinking didn't bring happiness. Only indifference again and again. "Why don't you speak? Can't you hear me?" His tone was as cold as ever, even a little self-righteous. "It's okay. Let's talk about it later." I spoke softly and waved at the passing taxi. "So where are you? Don't tell me that instead of cooking at home, you ran out to fool around." "I'm at the entrance of the seaside restaurant." This sentence made his voice suddenly stop, and he suddenly became silent. I know that he has never forgotten. He also came, but the person by his side is not me. "Stay there and don't move. I'll pick you up." My arm stiffened slightly. Looking at the taxi driver, who looked over with questioning eyes, I waved gently. For no reason, I chose to believe him again. It was late at night. The darkness gradually engulfed the surroundings. Only the faint light under the street lamp supported me to hold on. I squatted under the street lamp, curled up, shivering a little. Until late at night, he still didn't appear. Facts have proved that believing his lies is of no use at all. Since I married him, he has bound me bit by bit with lies woven into a net. Now, he has deceived me again. Shen Tang's circle of friends posted a picture. She sat in the seaside restaurant with a delicate smile. Exquisite food was placed on the dining table. Beside it, a slender man's hand was in the picture. It had caressed my body countless late nights. But the wedding ring on the fingertip disappeared, leaving only a faint mark. I shook my head slightly and suddenly felt a little ridiculous. 8 years have only proved that I was wrong. Perhaps it's time to let go. Help me get a divorce agreement. I've thought it over. I plan to divorce Xiao Yuenting. My friend Bai Bai became a lawyer after graduation. It just happens to be in line with her major, and she is familiar with me, so it saves trouble. She has advised me to divorce more than once and let that jerk get out of my world. Perhaps it's because I love him too much. I always smile and shake my head. I swallow my sadness alone again and again, until I am physically and mentally exhausted. So this time, she didn't hesitate and immediately agreed. She said she could send me the divorce agreement tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, I leaned against the bedside and looked at the wind chime at the door that swayed slightly and made a crisp sound. There was no sign of him at the crossroads last night. Even when I returned home in the early morning, there was no one in the house. In normal times, I would definitely call and ask with concern where he had been and if he had had a good rest. Now, I am no longer interested in where he has gone and what he is doing. When I got up to make myself breakfast, the door opened. Xiao Yuenting quickly took off his shoes and lay directly on the bed. There was a strong smell of alcohol accompanied by a faint fragrance of gardenia. There was still a shallow lip print on his face. I glanced at him and didn't speak. I walked straight to the kitchen. Before long, the phone rang in the bedroom. I'm home. Don't worry. Last night you played so late. Go and take a rest. A few minutes later, Xiao Yuenting, wearing slippers, walked up to me and took the initiative to speak for the first time in a long while. I had a party with friends yesterday. I drank too much and found a hotel to sleep for a while. Why don't you say anything? I didn't look up and put the noodles in the packaging bag into the pot. There's nothing to say. We are about to get divorced. Why should I care about those things? Are you still angry about last night? Xiao Yuenting stared closely at my eyes, seemingly trying to see something from them. Unfortunately, he was destined to be disappointed. No, his eyebrows rose slightly. He was very dissatisfied with my attitude and wanted to lose his temper. But thinking that he was in the wrong first, he finally held back. Can you look at me when you talk? His tone was a bit unpleasant, and a hint of gloom hung on his handsome face. I turned around and gave him a slight smile. Really not. You're overthinking. Being angry with him only hurts my own body and is meaningless. I opened the rice cooker. Inside was the cooled porridge.
I prepared this for you yesterday. I thought you would come back. Because he often socializes outside and often has an uncomfortable stomach. So every time before he comes back, I will prepare steaming porridge for him. For 10 years, like one day, even if he doesn't come back, I never stop, just to give it to him when he needs it most. He was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, he was already lacking in confidence. I was busy shooting a couple-themed video on the beach yesterday afternoon. I was so busy that I forgot about having a meal together. Did you shoot it with Shen Tang? I suddenly looked up. The look in my eyes when looking at him carried a touch of irony. His voice paused slightly, as if there was a thorn stuck in his throat. After all, we had a big fight because of these things last time. I accused him of being married but having no sense of boundaries and always being ambiguous with Shen Tang. At first, he patiently explained things like, Shen Tang is a female anchor signed by our company. How can the company make money if we don't create some heat? Later, when he got tired of it, he directly threw out a sentence, if we wanted something to happen, it would have happened before you married me. Then he slammed the door and left. I chuckled. I understand. Don't say any more. I didn't continue to pester. What should be said has been said. We are all adults and not stupid. He stared at me for a while. His eyelids lifted slightly, and his tone softened a lot. Our company has invested in a gallery. The exhibits inside are very good. Knowing that you like these, let's go and have a look when you have time. I was a bit surprised. In the 3 years since I married him, Xiao Yuanteng rarely took the initiative to take me out. I didn't show gratitude and joy. I just smiled faintly. As he said this, he took out an invitation letter from his pocket and handed it to me. Dress up beautifully. Don't embarrass me. As always, it was like a reward from a lofty emperor to me. Without accident, this should be the last time. I didn't dress up. I came to the newly opened gallery at the appointed time. There was no figure as I imagined. To my surprise, Shen Tang was also there. At this moment, she was happily holding Xiao Yuanteng's arm and enjoying being the center of attention. Someone asked, "This is Mrs. Xiao, right?" Her temperament and appearance are indeed first class. Although Xiao Yuanteng was a bit uncomfortable, he didn't deny it. Shen Tang looked at Xiao Yuanteng affectionately. "Yuanteng appreciates my taste very much. Knowing that I am interested in these, he is willing to spend money to take me to see the best artworks in the world. The two of you are truly a harmonious couple." Shen Tang smiled even more happily. However, what she said is indeed true. Half a year ago, when I was packing my suitcase, I smelled the fragrance of gardenias on Xiao Yuanteng's expensive suit. Yes, it was the unique smell of Shen Tang. Without much effort, I found out that Xiao Yuanteng took her on trips abroad in the name of business trips again and again, and even used his own money to help her with her expensive divorce lawsuit. I stood in a corner of the gallery and looked at Xiao Yuanteng and Shen Tang calmly. The man is handsome and the woman is beautiful. I have to say, the two of them are really a good match. Shen Tang was elegant in her manners and talked eloquently, making Xiao Yuanteng laugh frequently from time to time. The conversation between the two was so happy and sweet. If it were in the past, I would definitely rush over and cry and ask Xiao Yuanteng if he doesn't love me anymore. But now there is only calmness. I didn't disturb the warmth between the two. I looked at the art exhibition on my own. We are about to get divorced soon. Finally, I can fulfill the two of them. Alone, I don't need to prepare 3 meals in advance anymore, don't need to show concern, and don't need to worry about all kinds of life trifles. He should be very happy if he knows. Thinking of this, I let go. From this moment on, I also want to enjoy life. Once upon a time, the three of us were the best friends. During the 4 years of college, we were together at many important moments. Watching movies together, going to art exhibitions together, celebrating birthdays together. Even other friends said that our relationship is really good. After graduation, Shen Tang went abroad under the arrangement of her family. Xiao Yuanteng and I got married. I accompanied him from having nothing to now founding a film and television company. It was a long time before I knew that they had known each other long ago and even liked each other. Xiao Yuanteng suddenly proposed to me also because of a sentence from Shen Tang. "Yuanteng, I'm married. I hope to hear your good news." Later, when Shen Tang got divorced and returned to China, she immediately became a popular online anchor highly promoted by Xiao Yuanteng's company. Now thinking about it, it turns out that Xiao Yuanteng has always only liked Shen Tang. And as for myself, I am just the redundant third party. How ironic. "Why are you here?" A delicate voice rang out. Shen Tang looked at me in surprise, her delicate face slightly lifted. Although her voice was sweet, it couldn't hide the contempt in her eyes. "Why can't I be here? This is a project invested by my husband. Isn't it natural for me to be here?" I glanced at her and said with a half smile. Everyone present was a shrewd person in the business field. Hearing our conversation, they naturally guessed something about our relationship. The looks they gave Shen Tang changed from admiration to contempt. Shen Tang's expression froze and she quickly changed the topic. Yuanteng went to the toilet. "I'm waiting for him here." As she spoke, she stretched out her hand and deliberately showed the ring on her finger in front of me. It was shiny and extremely dazzling under the light. At a glance, I recognized that it was Xiao Yuanteng's wedding ring. But now, it was actually on Shen Tang's ring finger. I stared blankly, feeling a bit of pain in my heart. Seeing my expression change, Shen Tang smiled provocatively, seemingly wanting to see my pain and sadness. Yuanteng said, "This ring suits me very well. What do you think?" I suddenly laughed. Garbage and dogs go together forever. Bless you to be together forever. Locked tight. Shen Tang's expression froze and became a bit ugly. She stomped her feet in anger but couldn't find words to scold me. abandoning being a proper young lady and insisting on being a mistress. Miss Shen's taste is really unique. In the past, Shen Tang was pampered. Now she is willingly following Xiao Yuantang as a mistress. It was precisely because I had made up my mind to divorce that I spoke so bluntly. Did I hit a sore spot? I chuckled. Before I could finish speaking, Xiao Yuantang hurried over. Probably because he was afraid that Shen Tang would be bullied by me. There was still water dripping from his hand and he didn't even have time to wipe it. Why did you come here without any makeup? His face was a bit gloomy and his cold gaze looked down at me. I didn't have time to answer. Shen Tang cried out in a timely manner. Her pink and tender nose twitched. Her voice was choked and her body trembled slightly. Xiao Yuantang turned around and gently brushed the corner of Shen Tang's eye and wiped away her tears. When he turned to face me, there was also a faint contempt on the corner of his mouth, exactly the same as Shen Tang. They are really affectionate. Am I too good to you? You just have to anger Shen Tang. You think she's easy to bully, right? I raised my head and stared at his face. He was still as overbearing and unreasonable as ever. Without asking about right and wrong, he did everything according to what he thought. No matter what, I would always be the one who did bad things. I looked at him intently. I hadn't looked at him so closely in a long time. Why did he seem so strange? Su, you really disappoint me. There was an extra touch of coldness in his voice. I was stunned for a moment, then shook my head and smiled. I said, who is disappointing who in the end? Xiao Yuantang, you are free. Let's get a divorce.
The next morning, Bai invited me out to eat and brought me the divorce agreement by the way. I set the location at a small hot pot restaurant. This place is in a remote location. In the winding alley, the air is also mixed with the fragrance of barbecue stalls and skewer shops. Why did you choose such a deserted place? Bai wiped the sweat on her forehead and gave me a somewhat resentful look. I smiled and didn't know how to explain. Why I chose this place is probably because this is a place full of memories for me and Xiao Yuantang. Once upon a time, the only common hobby between me and Xiao Yuantang was to eat hot pot here. The frog hot pot here is really excellent. In the days after Shen Tang went abroad, I accompanied Xiao Yuantang to start from scratch. I started a studio with a few friends. At that time, we didn't have money and couldn't afford a big meal. Every time we closed a deal, we would come to this small hot pot restaurant to celebrate. He often ordered my favorite bullfrog hot pot for me. Probably, the last time I ate it was 2 years ago. Anyway, it's been a long time since I came here. Why are you in a daze again? Bai stretched out her fair fingers and waved them in front of my eyes curiously. I gave her a blank look and said somewhat impatiently, "Where's the divorce agreement?" She giggled and touched her stomach. "I walked so far for you. Shouldn't you wait until I finish eating before we talk?" I shook my head and laughed. I softly said to the waiter, "Waiter, bring a bowl of fresh meat wontons first." "Are you really determined?" Bai looked at me with a somewhat complicated expression. She is my best friend. She deeply knows the relationship between me and Xiao Yuantang and even more knows how much I have paid for him. I used to love someone so hard. Now I'm giving up. So at the last moment, her mood was a bit complicated instead. Of course. I had a calm expression and no hesitation at all. From that night by the sea, I had made up my mind. But everything you did before is all in vain. Bai's tone was a bit hesitant. It's all in the past. I smiled. Bai sighed slightly. Then, suddenly grinning, she said, "Then congratulations on regaining your freedom." I was about to speak when my gaze suddenly froze. Looking out through the transparent glass window, a man in a black coat and casual shoes was leading a woman and pushing open the store door. Even though the man was looking down and his face couldn't be seen clearly, I could recognize him at a glance. This man and woman were Xiao Yuantang and Shen Tang. This place is buried with our deep memories. Now he comes here with another woman. The bullfrogs here are so delicious. I used to come here often, Xiao Yuantang said with a smile. At the moment he turned his head, his voice suddenly stopped. "Why are you here?" His gaze was a bit strange. He looked me up and down and suddenly frowned. "Hisusu, are you actually following me?" I felt a bit speechless. How could he say such words so righteously? Shen Tang pouted beside him. Susu, believe me. I have nothing with brother Yuenting. Otherwise, I'd better leave. As she spoke, she tightened her grip on Xiao Yuenting's arm without any intention of leaving. It has nothing to do with you. I'll handle it. Xiao Yuenting looked at Shen Tang and gently patted her head, his posture slightly intimate. Bai Bai couldn't stand watching anymore and rolled her eyes. Seeing that I had been calm and didn't speak, she couldn't hold back anymore and said, "She's really a standard green tea. It's so disgusting that I have goosebumps all over." As soon as Shen Tang heard this, her face became a bit ugly. She pointed at Bai Bai. How can you say that about me?" When Shen Tang was publicly humiliated, Xiao Yuenting's face also didn't look good. He looked at me, his expression slightly sarcastic. "Is this your friend? Why is she so unrefined?" I smiled slightly and wasn't angry. Instead, I picked up the divorce agreement on the side. "It's just right that you're here. So I don't have to look for you again. Sign it." Xiao Yuenting's expression froze and suddenly looked a bit unnatural. In black and white, he saw the big words divorce agreement at a glance. There was even his name on it. He forced a smile and subconsciously let go of Shen Tang. "Don't be childish, Susu. We are family. Can't we talk about things when we get back? Don't let others see and laugh." I felt a bit surprised. Xiao Yuenting, who has always been sharp-edged, actually started to soften. "No need. You and Shen Tang are the family. Look at how natural you were just now," I said calmly. In the past, I would definitely be so angry that tears would fall wildly. But now I have no feeling at all. Probably because I don't love him anymore. Seeming to think that I was just being awkward with him. "Don't be childish. Come home with me." Xiao Yuenting came over and pulled me to leave. I forcefully broke free from his hand. Xiao Yuenting's body trembled suddenly. After realizing the seriousness on my face, his smile completely disappeared. He frowned. "Do you have to go to the point of hurting our feelings before you stop?" "Feelings? Do you think there are still any between us?" I looked at Shen Tang, who was silent on the side with a bitter smile. A faint smile appeared at the corner of her delicate mouth. It seemed that she couldn't wait for us to get divorced. "Go and have a meal with your little girlfriend quickly. It won't be good if you starve." I continued to speak. My calm words without any power made him unable to respond. It seemed that my words had stuck in his throat. Xiao Yuenting pressed his hands on the table, leaned down and looked at me seriously. There was still a hint of persistence between his eyebrows. "Don't be so childish in the future and mention divorce so easily." Looking at this still calm and indifferent man in front of me, I reached out and put the divorce agreement in front of him. I even prepared a pen for him. I asked someone to specially check the terms above. "They are all favorable to you. Sign it quickly." His eyes changed again and again. His sharp gaze like a carving knife was cast over. "Do you really have to do this?" I didn't avoid his closely watching gaze and had a smile on my lips. "Yes, I must," I said word by word. Xiao Yuenting's face darkened and his eyes flickered. "You are serious?" "He Susu, don't regret it." I smiled and didn't hesitate at all. "Yes, we get a divorce." Suddenly, Shen Tang on the side spoke in a delicate voice. While speaking, she covered her stomach. "Yuenting, when will we have a meal? I'm so hungry." "Shut up." Before she could finish speaking, Xiao Yuenting immediately shouted loudly. His voice was deep and powerful. It directly stunned Shen Tang and made the words on the tip of her tongue go back. Bai Bai gave Shen Tang a mocking look, just like looking at a clown. Shen Tang came to her senses and her face instantly turned livid. But with Xiao Yuenting by her side, she couldn't lose her temper. She could only glare with a resentful look. Bai Bai also returned Shen Tang's glare without showing any weakness. "Take a look." I shook the divorce agreement and calmly used the tone he had spoken before. "Read it carefully and then sign. I still have something to do later." "Don't take too long." After a pause, I meaningfully added another sentence. "Otherwise, your girlfriend will be angry." But he didn't seem to hear my sarcasm. His voice was a bit puzzled. "What do you have to do later?" I replied coldly. Xiao Yuanting, you are overstepping. For his career, Xiao Yuanting often comes home very late after socializing.
On the night Shen Tang returned to China, he was drunk again. I got up from bed and went to the kitchen to bring him the porridge that had been warmed for a long time. Smelling the faint fragrance of gardenias on him, I asked one more question. Did you meet someone? The perfume smell on you is a bit familiar. Xiao Yuanteng's face instantly turned cold and he said sternly, Su, you are overstepping. You don't have to wait for me at night in the future and you don't have to prepare these for me. From then on, he came home even less. More time was spent outside. Our arguments never stopped, and that bowl of porridge slowly cooled down. Coming back to my senses, I saw Xiao Yuanteng's face livid. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly and he suddenly grabbed the divorce agreement. We haven't divorced yet. Is this your attitude? I smiled slightly and asked in reply. Isn't this always your attitude towards me? His arm paused. To my surprise, I saw confusion in his eyes. How ridiculous. That man who can openly kiss another woman would actually feel confused because of a woman he doesn't love? Enough. He suddenly spoke. His voice was a bit strange. I know you are very angry now. The decisions you make are not thought through. I understand. As he said this, he tore up the divorce agreement in front of me. He even acted grandly and looked like he was doing it for my own good. We'll talk about this later. He took Shen Tang and left in a hurry. They didn't even have a meal. I looked at the torn pieces of paper on the table and was a bit puzzled. Obviously, all the conditions were favorable to him. Giving up a woman he no longer loves. From then on, he can be with his white moonlight forever. Grow old together and spend a lifetime together. What is he hesitating about? Is he stimulated by something? Bye-bye on the side showed a stunned expression and was a bit puzzled. I shrugged. I didn't understand either. Who knows? Let's eat quickly. It will get cold in a while. After eating, I returned home and began to pack my things. Strictly speaking, this is no longer my home. I never thought that packing luggage would be a daunting task. The room is full of trivial things. Every bit was arranged by me personally. When I was halfway through packing, the door opened and Xiao Yuanteng came over without saying a word. He looked down at me. The emotions in his eyes were very faint, as if he didn't understand what I was fussing about. I pretended not to see him and continued to pack my things. He stared at me for a few minutes. Seeing that I hadn't looked at him from the beginning, his face couldn't help but look a bit ugly. Who allowed you to pack your things? As if I didn't agree to your divorce. I didn't stop what I was doing. Whether you agree or not is your business. What does it have to do with me? For the first time, I showed rebelliousness in front of him and even refuted what he said. All along, I have tried my best to be obedient to him and not distract him. Over time, he seems to have forgotten that I am also a normal person with emotions and desires and dignity. You have to think it over. After divorce, there will be no such worry-free life anymore. He gave a sarcastic smile and seemed very casual. After all, it has always been me who supports you, don't worry about me. I smiled brightly. The earth is so big. It can still turn without anyone. Then where are you going? To your parents' house? I can drive you. No need. I refused. It seems that every word he said has no effect on me. It even seems pale and powerless. Seeing that I was unmoved by soft or hard tactics. Xiao Yuanteng's mouth twitched slightly. He stopped talking and just stared gloomily at me as I put one piece of clothing after another into the suitcase. A few minutes later, a wisp of smoke floated over. The pungent smell made me cough uncontrollably. Xiao Yuanteng leaned by the balcony. Somehow there was a cigarette between his fingers at some point. In a short while, the bluish-white smoke had filled the room. I coughed hard and pushed open the window to let out the smell. In fact, he hasn't smoked for a long time. After he knew that I would feel nauseous and cough when I smelled cigarette smoke, he never touched it again in front of me. Why are you smoking again? Xiao Yuanteng glanced at me, smiled faintly, and narrowed his eyes to continue enjoying. I just smoked when I wanted to. I looked down at the ground, feeling extremely disappointed. You are about to leave. What's wrong with me smoking a cigarette? I took a deep breath, suppressed the nausea in my heart, quickly finished packing my things. I was too lazy to take the scattered things. I hurriedly closed the suitcase and walked out. Wait. He stubbed out the cigarette. His voice was a bit cold. Are you really determined? Once you walk out this door, there is no turning back. I didn't stop walking and directly pushed open the door. His words didn't make me hesitate for a moment. I had already been completely disheartened. What else needed to be determined? Su, you'd better not regret it. The roar from behind seemed to use all his strength and spread far away. I turned my head slightly. Vaguely, I saw that under the bright light, a figure was kneeling on the ground, his body trembling slightly. I found a hotel nearby and stayed. I put all my things in the room. I need to find a house to live in. But now there is something more important to do. I reprinted a divorce agreement at a nearby printing shop and came to Xiao Yuanteng's company. After years of hard work, Xiao Yuanteng is already the chairman of a listed film and television culture company. And Shen Tang is the popular online female anchor highly promoted by the company. Handsome, tall, versatile, and successful. Which woman wouldn't like such a man? No wonder Shen Tang, after being abroad for so many years, would rather bear the notoriety of being a mistress and endure humiliation to hook up with him when she returns. Everything seems very reasonable. You want to find Xiao Yuanteng? The guard scratched his head and had an expression of looking at a fool. Do you know who he is? I know. He is the chairman. I just want to see him. The guard looked at it for a while and finally shook his head. Sorry, I don't know what relationship you have with the chairman. I can't let you in. How ridiculous. The wife of the chairman is blocked outside by the guard and no one knows her. For 3 years of marriage, he has never told others about our relationship, including his subordinates. Only a few relatives and good friends know our relationship. When asked, he said that he likes to be low-key and doesn't like to be too ostentatious. I love him, so I don't care so much about these external things. But now it seems so ridiculous. He said he likes to be low-key but is willing to publicly release the video of kissing Shen Tang. He said he doesn't like luxury but is willing to buy brand-name bags for Shen Tang. Saying so much, it's just that he doesn't love me anymore. That's all. Oh, what a coincidence. Su, you seem to be everywhere. Shen Tang appeared beside me and spoke in a strange tone. She took a look at the guard standing in front of me and immediately chuckled. You were stopped, right? It's so normal. This is Yuanteng's company.